What a great way to start the college football season. Georgia Tech gets a huge upset victory over Florida State. I predicted it to happen. I don't know if my prediction was more narrative driven because I thought it'd be funny if they lost to Georgia and Georgia Tech in back to back games. But the way that Florida State lost and looked horrendous throughout the majority of the game outside of the first drive was really surprising to me. Florida State looked horrendous, and I'm not just talking about DJ Uiagalelei. Their whole team looked bad. The final score of that game, 24-21, doesn't indicate how bad Florida State looked. So I'm wondering if they even make the playoffs. Now, obviously, they make the playoffs if they win out and just win the ACC. Because they have a lot of tough games on their schedule. They've got to win against Miami, against Clemson, against Louisville, SMU, although SMU looked terrible. Florida. They've got Memphis, too, in the group of 5. Florida State's got a brutal schedule. One of the toughest in the nation. So you'd think they should get in, even if let's say they win out and then somehow lose in the ACC championship game. You'd think they still get win with all of those wins on their schedule, but I'm not convinced they do after what happened to them last year. They got completely screwed last year when they had no losses. So now for them to get in with 2, maybe. I mean, it's also it's weird with the 12-team playoff era. It's also possible for them to get a first-round bye with 3 losses because they could lose to Notre Dame, they could lose to Florida. Both of those games aren't going to affect how they do in the ACC standings. So if they win out in the ACC, they're 7-1 in the ACC. They're likely going to be in the conference championship game. If they win that, even if they have 3 losses, they're going to get the auto bid. They're going to get a first round bye in the playoffs. The question is, can they do that? And I don't really think they can. After what we just witnessed, I mean, they played amazing in that first drive. I was scared. I was thinking, oh boy, here we go again. The Georgia Tech defense can't stop the run whatsoever. And then we just outplayed them for the rest of the game. Really, the score doesn't indicate how close that game was at all. Georgia Tech destroyed them. Humiliated them. Can Georgia Tech make the playoffs? Can Georgia Tech win the ACC? Who knows? Because everyone, a lot of people have been saying the ACC is going to be a lot deeper this year. I'm not really convinced of that. And I think a lot of the teams at the top are just going to beat up on each other. There's going to be no clear, dominant ACC team. You might have a lot of 10-2 or 9-3 teams at the end of the season. I'm not sure that there's a clear ACC favorite right now. I know one thing is for sure: Georgia Tech looks a lot better than Florida State. They looked a lot better. The question is, how good is Miami? How good is Clemson? How good is Louisville? How good is SMU? Well, according to last night, they're terrible because they barely beat Nevada. Nevada's one of the worst teams in the Mountain West. So it really wasn't a good showing for the ACC last night because Florida State, who was supposed to be the ACC champion, who's projected to be, the ACC champion, didn't play well. SMU, a lot of people's sleeper pick, didn't play well at all. Georgia Tech surprisingly played well on defense. They looked good all around. And I don't want to overreact to one game. I don't think that we're going to win the ACC all of a sudden. I don't think that we're the best team in the ACC, but I think a lot of people are sleeping on Georgia Tech. I think we could make the playoffs. We could win the ACC, therefore we could get the auto bid to make the playoffs. I don't know if we're going to sneak in otherwise. I think we probably have to win the ACC too. It's going to be hard for any team in the ACC to make the playoffs if they don't win the ACC championship. So not a good start for Florida State. Amazing start for Georgia Tech. They should be ranked, assuming they beat Georgia State next week. They should be ranked after that win. But to be honest, I think this was a better win for Georgia Tech than it was a bad loss for Florida State. I think Florida State's going to catch fire here in the next few weeks. They're going to beat Boston College next week. They're going to beat Memphis in a few weeks from now. Memphis is one of the best group of 5 teams, so that'll be a pretty good win. I think Florida State still has a really good team. They just have a really tough schedule. And a lot of Florida State fans I know are probably really disappointed they lost to Georgia Tech, a team that shouldn't have made a bowl game last year if it wasn't for Mario Cristobal's play calling decisions. But I think Georgia Tech is a lot better than most people perceive them to be. I think Georgia Tech is an 8-4 or 9, maybe 9-3 type team now. And this loss isn't going to look as bad as it does now. But yeah, those are my thoughts on week 0. Let me know what y'all think.